Hey friends, welcome back to another video. My name's Lefebvre, and today we are on day 16 of our 31 days of watercolor practice. We are continuing with our painting water theme. We are going to be creating some waves using a couple of really fun techniques. So let's jump in and get started. Okay friends, we are back. Today's day 16 and we are working on part 2 of our waves. So yesterday we worked on our gradients and dry brush. Now we're going to take it up another notch. So I'm going to do my dry brush on this one again. So I already did my sky with a little bit of a gradient. I did my water, my basic water with a gradient from dark to light. And then I'm going to go back in like we did yesterday with our dry brush, creating a little bit of those waves, just a little bit of texture, just for our base. Got to remember which blue I used again. And then we're going to create some actual little wave ripples. So yesterday I mentioned the further out our waves are, the smaller they're going to be and the lighter they're going to be. And the closer they are to us, the darker they're going to be. So now this comes into blending things out. Remember when we did the Misty Mountain and we kind of blended out the bottom? This is similar. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your color, your saturated color, your bristles are all nice and put together. You're going to create a wave. Now, when you're creating your waves, what I don't want to see are these large peaks like this, like mountains. What I want you to think of is like a flattened out mountain, like this. Just like a flatten out, little bit of a dip. Okay, we're doing again that pressure stroke, that light pressure, heavy pressure to make it a little bit thicker, then light pressure like we did with the leaves. Okay, so we got our saturated color. Let's do a bigger one closest to us. So I'm going to start light pressure, heavy pressure, drag it out, light pressure like that. Okay, then I'm going to do another one over here. I'm going to stagger them. Light pressure, heavy pressure, light pressure, not heavy pressure as in like you're pressing down really, hard, because you don't want to lift the color, but you want it to be a little bit thicker. Then this is where we blend it out. We're going to wash off our brush, dry it on our paper towel. We're going to touch the bottom of that shape and just slowly bring it down. We're blending it out a little bit. Same with this one. Okay, we don't want it to be because we're working on dry paper, we're working wet on dry. We don't want to have like the stark line of a wave. We want it to slowly blend out into a little bit of a gradient, right? So I'm just blending it out, blending out that bottom. And it's a little bit softer. See how that works? Okay, let's do another one. But as we move further back, it needs to be smaller. Okay, so smaller, light pressure, heavy pressure, light pressure. I'm going to blend it out immediately, wash and dry off my brush, just touching the bottom of that, blending out that edge to make it a bit softer. Again, not a lot of pressure on your brush. You don't want to lift the color. That may happen. You're just doing the soft blending out. Not a lot of water either. You're drying your brush off. Okay? And you get these really beautiful waves. Maybe we'll do half of one here. Okay, and then as we move further back, they don't need to be as detailed, okay? So again, smaller. We'll do another one here. I'm barely even making like big mountainy ripples, right? They're just these little compound strokes where it's a little bit thicker, closer to that center peak. So it looks like a wave. You could even do like a little double wave here. Why not? Okay, and just look how it really brings it to life. It's crazy. You can even use a little bit of a dry brush if you want to, so it's not such a solid line. Blend it out. And then as I get further back, I'm just not even going to blend it out anymore. I'm using a really light wash of my blue Okay, I'm not even using the dark blue like how I was. I have a tiny bit of pigment on my brush. I'm just going to do these little tiny lines. Or you can just stick with the dry brush lines. Okay, and that's how you can create waves. If you want to deepen it a little bit, you can even use a darker blue, especially right up to the front. I'm going to grab a little bit of this indigo. Deepen it right up here. Maybe this one too. Quickly wash off my brush before it dries. Dry my brush off. Blend out that line. So it's a little bit more intense right up front. Again, the closer it is to us, I'm going to do another one right here. The closer it is to us, the darker it's going to be. And there we have some beautiful waves. Okay. So that's one way to do some waves. I'm going to bring this down a little bit. Okay, that's one way to do some waves. Like, look how good that looks. So much fun. Does take a lot of practice. If it doesn't work the first time, it's something you're going to have to try and again and again. You know what? I've done this a million times, and the first few times it was a little bit frustrating, but it's just something you need to practice. The second one is creating waves by dropping water. So remember when I say that we want our water distributed evenly so we don't create those blooms or those harsh marks? There's a way to do it where you're doing it on purpose to create texture through your work. So crashing waves like right at the beach, let's do this. Let's do this. Hopefully this isn't a long video. I'm going to wet up the whole area. We're going to create a little bit of sand just so you can see the shore. I'm going to grab a little bit of yellow ochre. We're going to do a little bit of a shoreline here, just a tiny bit, just a tiny bit. Then we're going to grab some blue, maybe a little bit of some green, make it a little bit more of like that turquoisey color. And I'm just going to water it down a little bit, and I'm going to make it this light turquoise color. Let's put it through the whole thing over here. And as it gets further away out there, it's going to get a little bit darker actually, because we're going to see the beach and it gets a little bit lighter closer up. So you can maybe even make it a bit darker back here. And as we get closer to the shoreline, it gets a little bit lighter. Now we want to create those white waves, but we're not going to use white paint. What you're going to do is you're going to use water while this is still wet. I don't want a ton of water on my brush, a little bit of water. I'm going to take some water droplets and I'm going to drop it where this water meets the sand. And this will only work as if it's still wet. I'm also going to drop a little bit here so it looks like another crashing wave. Now this isn't meant to look realistic necessarily, but it gives it that really fun kind of abstract illusion that there's crashing waves. When there is too much water in an area, it actually repels the color. So that's why we want to distribute our water evenly, because if there's too much water in one area, it pushes away the color and it creates these harsh lines. But look at these harsh lines. They look kind of like waves, which is so fun. Now, if this is too much and it's just like too overwhelming for you, you don't like it, you can just kind of blend it out a little bit. Okay. But like, look how fun that is. Okay. Again, the closer it is to us, the bigger those waves are. So if you want just tinier little crashing waves, just tap your brush just a little bit. You don't want mounds of water, droplets kind of falling off your brush. You just want like a little bit of dampness. Okay. And what that does is it's a difference in the amount of water that's on that paper, and that water pushes it away. But like, look how cool that is. Then once that's completely dry, I'm going to quickly dry it. Now that it's dry, I might add a little bit of that dry brush to the background. Okay. So I'm just grabbing a little bit of our color, making it nice and dry, and just a little bit of texture back here. Just so it's not so flat. But like, look how amazing that looks. And there you go. There are two different ways to do water. Now with your water landscapes, like I said before, it doesn't have to stop there. You can create, you know, mountains in the background. That's a pretty vibrant green. Probably wouldn't use that normally. create a darker green. You can create mountains, you can create trees, little islands, whatever you like. You don't have to stop there. You could draw a boat, anything you like. Finally, if you want to add just a little bit of something extra, if you have like a white gouache or white ink, or even a white acrylic marker, you could always add little bits of sparkle to the tips of some of your waves so it looks like the water has little bits of highlight. It's so cute to do and looks really nice. You could do that even with a little bit, you know, like some spatter here or some sparkle, little lines. Like there's so many ways you could add more to this. This is called Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. It is very similar. It's a nice opaque white paint. And sometimes with these ones, I like to add a little bit of spatter for the waves crashing. I would probably not do it here, but just little extras that you can also add to your ocean paintings to really make them stand out. So experiment and have fun with it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in our next video. Bye guys.